Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pac-12 Chat Show Live. How are you guys tonight? I'm Tony Altimore here with our friend Chris, as always. Rick is not with us tonight, and Tim will be back with us momentarily as he sorts out a bit of a tech shenanigan. So no worries. We'll have Tim back with us in just a minute. How are you doing tonight, Chris?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing good, thanks. And greetings to everybody out in the chat. I see we got Clint. We got Larry, Pac-12 Pilgrim. We got Conference Commissioner Gumby, one of our favorites. Connor Johnson. We got the whole crew here, guys, and I love it. So it's good to have you guys. We'd love to have you guys chat tonight because this is week one, and we're going to be talking football. We got some picks coming up. We got some news and some power ranks, and we want to hear what you guys think of all of that. So we'd love to have you guys call in on the bottom half of the show. So let's start here with some news. First piece of news of the week is actually not from the Pac-12, but I thought we should talk about it. I don't know if you guys saw it tonight. Nebraska broke a world record. 92,003 people in Memorial Stadium, their football stadium, for a volleyball game. And Nebraska is usually the leader in volleyball attendance. And last year, Wisconsin stole the most people at a game record from them. So Nebraska decided to one-up that. And they actually broke the record tonight for most people to ever attend a women's sporting event. Chris, did you see this adventure?
I didn't see the video, but I saw the picture, and it's incredible. And it's, I mean, I know this isn't a Big Ten show, but like, what a crazy great college town Lincoln is, because like on game day too, they have the joke that it's like the second or third largest city in Nebraska or something, right behind like Omaha. And then like as a UCLA, tying it to like UCLA football and whatnot, I remember Pasquale died as like a walk-on who got hit by a car on UCLA, and like the very next week we're playing at Nebraska, and without very much notice, they had like a great like pre-game thing honoring him that they totally didn't have to do. And any conversation I've ever had with a UCLA fan that's interacted with Nebraska fans has been like overwhelmingly positive. So it doesn't surprise me that they put something like this together, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So anyway, I just want to give a shout out to Nebraska. And you'll get a terrible me singing, "There is no place like Nebraska," because you deserve it tonight. So go Huskers, go Big Red. That was just pretty amazing for all of college sports, and those of us that really love women's sports, pretty cool too. So we'll do that. Just celebration of them. So the other piece of news, what is happening as usual in the Pac-12? We don't know. The ACC was supposedly going to have a meeting to determine what was going to happen with Cal and Stanford and SMU. That was postponed due to the shooting at Nebraska, or excuse me, the shooting in North Carolina. Sorry, North Carolina. We were talking about Nebraska. Wish we weren't live. I could edit that. But the that meeting has now been postponed. It will hopefully be soon. We may find what happens with the rest of them. We've right now got Oregon State and Washington State just horrifically, unbelievably kind of in limbo, waiting to see what this happens. We know that the Mountain West has met with Washington State, I believe also Oregon State, to talk about options and start their conversation with how they might be able to work together. And we'll see what's happening. Chris, how brutal is this for fans at Cal and Stanford and Wazoo and Oregon State?
Well, on the Oregon State side of things, I want to give Connor a shout out for just being a one-man wrecking squad on Twitter, bothering every single major media official in college football that I know of in the comments. Just like day seven of commenting on Joel Klatt's comments until he says something about the Beavs to the Big 12 on his show. No, Connor's out there doing work. Cal fans are too busy begging for alimony than dealing with actually finding a league to play in. But yeah, no, I mean, on like a more serious note, I would like things to get resolved so that we can stop talking about it, and
It's true.
and hopefully everyone has the best home possible that they can have from this point forward.
I second that, and I'm really hoping that it gets squared away really quickly, and we see where we're going to next. Hopefully, Tim will be with us in just a few minutes. Folks, again, we're going to do call-ins after we do our game picks. So we're going to walk through the Pac-12 schedule, and then we'll take calls, and we'd love to have your calls. Hopefully, Tim will be joining us back again. Like I said, he was with us, but could not get any sound, which, of course, doesn't help you guys because charades doesn't work as well in game picks. That's what we could do. He could like enact the mascot of of who he picks to win.
If you want to talk one other piece of news while we wait for Tim, I don't know if you had a slide for it or not, but the timing of the Arizona State bowl ban was kind of interesting. I know some people make the joke like, "Oh, you banned yourself from something that you weren't going to go to anyway," but
I've made that joke many times. Yeah,
right. But we don't really know that yet, and
really, don't we?
I don't know. They have like 50 new faces. If people get to claim that Colorado has a chance to go to a bowl game this year, Arizona has, just as much of a claim to saying that. But I think it's especially crummy for like the people transferring in that might be like transferring as a senior or whatnot. I don't know how many of those there are. The timing is really weird, and I don't know how much we want to get into the fact that the athletic director there used to be like Herm Edwards' agent, and they kind of like the separation in time of when this occurred, and kind of separating it as far as they can from Herm and almost protecting Herm in a weird way rather than
they protected him in a ridiculous way.
Right.
I'll tell you my take on it, and that is that no one at Arizona State, no one has questioned for the past 3 years that this was coming. Like, I mean, they did it. Like, there is all the evidence. There's no question that they did it, and that they did worse than, way worse than Michigan. They were more egregious than Tennessee. Like, they have a hammer coming to them, and there's been no question for 3 years that it's been on the way. So this seems to me like incredibly mild. I mean, really, they should be seeing a loss of like 10 scholarship. I mean, they should be hammered, and they're like, "Oh, we're not going to go to, we might miss the Emerald Nut Shreveport Weed Eater Bowl if we somehow miraculously win more than 3 games."
I do totally. I mean, you have to do let's setting aside like what people think about the NCAA in general. Like, if you're going to have rules and you're going to have somebody enforcing them, right, then they have to have a way to enforce them, and they have to have some kind of penalty. And I don't know how you do it in this way, because what sucks about all of this is it's always like the coach after. It's like the next coach that suffers, and the players that weren't a part of that. And in this case, it's even different. It's like COVID protocols, right? Mostly.
Yeah, but it is COVID protocols, but it's about flagrantly, not like a little bit, like flagrantly ignoring the rules, just blatantly. I mean, just it saying we're not going to even pretend like we're going to follow them.
Right. So I don't know how you punish an institution without it's punishing the next. Right. I don't know what else they can do.
Lack of institutional control.
But I don't know. I guess my point is I don't know how you come down with the punishment that doesn't, actually affect the people that may not have been there doing the crime, right? I mean, I guess they have show cause penalties and whatnot, but it's not like Herm is ever going to coach again. I just wish there was a way to do it without taking away from current players that weren't even around during that time, or Dillingham, who wasn't. I know he stepped into this knowing that it was going to occur, but I think the Arizona State terribly, to the extent they're even thinking about that, but
I know, but that's a little bit like, well, I joined Enron after the fraud, but it's wrong that the company goes bankrupt because I joined afterwards. Now it's punishing
No,
me.
I'm not.
Like,
No, I'm saying
uh,
they like if they're gonna do something, they have to do something to the program, and that's like how it's going to be. But I also understand that like the timing of it and the way that they appeared to handle it, because it appeared like Dillingham didn't even know until like the night before it was announced or whatever. So like I get why he's pissed off. He's pissed off in every interview he does lately about
yeah.
something. He's kind of like pissed
I
off
mean,
for
I would be
greatness,
too
for lack of a better term.
if I had to put
But
that team on a field. I might be pissed off. Sorry to be interrupt. Go ahead.
no, that's it.
That is Larry points out, no Rick or Tim. Are they looking for defense under cushions? No, Rick is not with us tonight. Tim was with us a minute ago. Tim is having some technical issues. We hope he will be back with us in just a few minutes. All right, should we get into some picks? We'll get Tim's when he joins us.
Sure.
All right. So, guys, this is quite a week. We have a ton of Pac-12 games to dig into. And they start with the game of the week. And I understand ESPN's going to be there. The college game day crews are going to be there. Guys, Florida is coming to Rice-Eccles. Chris, what do you think about this game? Can Utah get revenge on Florida?
Yeah, so like you just said, Florida won 29-26 last year, but like the game's way different. Because no Richardson for Florida, no Rising for Utah. Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your tight end, Brent Kuth, I think is how you say his name, still also isn't going to be ready to go. So you have Bryson Barnes, who grew up on a pig farm, will be the starting quarterback for Utah, but he's played in about 10 games last year, I think is the stat. And this is a little bit different to me than a situation where, you lose your first and second string guys in week 5 and all of a sudden you're on your third string quarterback and he hasn't taken meaningful snaps in practice or a game, in like a month and a half. So I kind of think that Utah, despite wanting Cam to play, and I'm sure he's practicing and whatnot, is more prepared than they would be. On the other side, at quarterback replacing Richardson, you have Graham Mertz of Wisconsin. So hell of an environment for someone that has a lot of pressure on him to step into. Utah hasn't, since 2019, I think it's Oregon and Utah both are 21-1 at home. So even with Rising out and the like sneaking feeling that this feels like the standard Utah year where they lose 1 or 2 out of conference and then mosey around and everyone forgets about them, and then all of a sudden in November they're like in the thick of the title race and go on to win it. I can't pick against Utah at home, so I'm gonna take the Utes to pull it off as a 4-point favorite.
I'm going to do something very unpopular. I want to be clear. I am rooting for the Utes. I will be wearing red tomorrow, and I will be cheering for the Utes. I have a lot of great Utah friends. I think it would be great for the school. I think it'd be important for the conference and great for my Utah friends. I worry about, without Rising, I worry about game 1. I don't know if they can do it. I want them to do it. I want Utah to win. I will be in full red. I'll be supporting them. But I think I'm going to have to pick Florida for the upset. Are they going to hate me?
I do want to point out as an aside and a stalling tactic to hopefully get Tim back.
Popped in a second ago.
The Utes are like basically undefeated when my wife watches.
Is she watching?
But her parents are both Gators, and she has already promised her mom. Like the only Rose Bowl game my wife's ever been to is against Utah, and Utah beat us when we missed like 2 field goals in a row. Larry, I don't know if you remember that game at the end. they're like 50-yarders, but no, anytime the Utes are on TV and she walks by, they win. But her parents are Gators, and she has already promised her dad that she will purposely not watch the game at all. So you have the. I don't know if it's a guarantee. I don't know if that's a guarantee that Florida wins. But if they don't have Utah does not have their good luck charm, and they do not have Rising, and they do not have their tight end. But I still am taking them to pull it off in what I think will be like a very like lower scoring 21-20 like rock fight kind of game.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. It's Thursday night on ESPN. You know, the whole country's watching. I think it'll be pretty cool. All right. Hopefully we'll get Tim back and he'll give us his scoop on that one. Did I miss one? Oh no, I didn't click enough. Sorry. We are having all sorts of technical fun tonight. All right. The next one, the Kenny Dillingham debut. So Michael Crow dropped an egg on Dillingham this week with that little announcement. They are opening with Southern Utah. Chris, is Arizona State going to get things done, or is this going to be a wild one in the desert?
I don't even think there's like a spread on this game, right? So
I don't even know what it is.
No, that tells you a lot of what you need to know. Yeah. So Arizona named Jaden Rashada the starter over Drew Pine, and I think it'll be a good opportunity for him to get his feet wet a little bit before they have much harder games against Oklahoma State and Fresno State coming up after this. But this one is not one that Arizona State has to worry about, and they will win easily.
I agree with that. I think it'll be good for Kenny Dillingham to get his ASU career off to start with a big win. Really good for Jaden Rashada, his first college game being hopefully a more manageable one. They have Drew Pine in relief. You certainly did some good things at Notre Dame last year at times, but I think I agree with you. I think it'll be a strong ASU win. So forks up, go Devils. I got ASU to win. All right, next up to bat.
And so did Rick, and I imagine Tim did too.
Oh, so did Rick. Oh yeah, and Rick had Utah over Florida too. Sorry, I have Rick's picks. I have to be announcing. So, guys, this is the one. This is the wild game, I think, of the Pac. This is Pac-12 After Dark. Actually, it's Friday night, Pac-12, super late, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. Stanford is going to Hawaii. They're playing at the Ching Athletics Complex, which, as you can see in the picture there, is like smaller than most high school stadiums in places like Texas or Georgia. And, Chris, I have no idea what to expect from Stanford here. We saw Hawaii looked good. What do we think of the Trees and the Warriors?
Yeah, like you said, Hawaii looked better than I think most people, including myself, expected in Nashville against Vanderbilt last week. And I would have thought before the season started, because I think Stanford is potentially one of the worst teams in the Power Five, I would have thought Vandy would be better than Stanford. Transitive property is like never correct whenever I use it. But we don't really have a lot to go on. So Hawaii, the travel things for Hawaii, it's not like it's very much easier for them because they're coming back from Nashville. Like it's not like they were sitting in Hawaii and then Stanford has the long flight. Like Hawaii has some travel issues in this game also. But no, I think Stanford's favored by 3.5, but I think that this is one where I'm going to take the I don't know if you even call it an upset when it's only 3.5, but to not be a homer and take the Pac-12 in pretty much every game. There's like one other one I think I am not being a homer on. I think I'm going to go with Hawaii to beat the Cardinal in Hawaii, which is going to be a rough look for Stanford because I think I don't know how many other games on their schedule that they're even going to be favored, and I think there's maybe one other game.
Yeah, this was an interesting one for me. I debated a lot. I tried to look up Troy Taylor, who I think is a really good coach, and he's got a great recruiting class coming in. he still hasn't even announced a starter for this game. And his choices are a little slim anyway. I mean, on behalf of our Stanford friends, our good friends from Channel Tree Sports, our good friends, multiple Stanford trees, or is that like Attorneys General? Is it Stanford's tree? I don't know. I'm just kidding. I want to pick Stanford here, but Hawaii looked good, and I think you're right, Chris. Stanford may be one of the most challenged teams in the Pac-12 this year. I think they have a lot of off the field distractions about their future. They don't know what conference they'll be. I mean, they got a lot of distractions. They're going to Hawaii. I think I just got to go with Hawaii to pull the win on this one.
They also just might not be as good.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, Hawaii. We're basing this on Hawaii Vandy. It's not like we're basing on Hawaii Georgia. So we'll see what happens here. That's Friday night. So that's another fun one, guys. We get Pac-12 football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We got 4 straight days of Pac-12 football, which is, I mean, again, one of the things that kind of sucks is for as brutally as the conference managed its TV negotiation process, they've set up a pretty cool schedule here with some pretty good games. Next up, Fox Game of the Week, big noon kickoff is going for a Big 12 showdown of Colorado and TCU. Coach Prime in his debut. Chris, is it going to be Ralphie or is it going to be Super Frog?
Is this the most hyped 20-point spread game in opening week ever?
Well, I think it should be about a 40-point spread, but keep going.
So this is the only Pac-12 team, I think. Yeah, this is the only Pac-12 team that's an underdog in their game.
It might be.
Granted, it's the only one playing someone that went to the college football playoff last year. There's a lot of questions with New Look Colorado, but I think what's interesting about this game is that TCU is also replacing quite a bit on its roster that went to the playoff last year. So they have some questions, but I still think that they are better. I think you're going to see, Shitter Sanders is going to make a play or two. Travis Hunter is going to do something probably electric, but they're going to lose, in my opinion. And I think hopefully it's a comeback to reality for some people. Colorado, yeah, I think Colorado's like a 3 or 4 win team, and this isn't one of them. I see TCU winning something like 42-20.
Yeah, as I've looked at this one, I've looked for how I think that they can come out and at least even look good. I just don't see it. I mean, we've seen that we didn't really have a good look at them in the spring. We know they're going to have a lot of problems, I think, in the line of scrimmage. And I thought TCU had a pretty good line last year. They got a lot of people. They lost a lot of people, but they got a lot of people back too. Chandler Morris is their quarterback. And remember, he actually won the job over Max Duggan before he got hurt last year. So I look at this and I just think TCU by 1 million. I want to think it's going to look good for Colorado, but I think this is going to be the biggest hype train to derail probably pretty quickly.
Tim says TCU in chat, and Rick had TCU as well. And if we didn't hit it already, Rick had Stanford in the game before.
Tim, what's up with your sound? Is your sound back? We need Tim. And yeah, Rick very much believed TCU over CU. Hopefully Tim will get his tech stuff sorted out and join us in a moment. Because we miss him. We need Tim. All right, moving on. Oregon and Portland State. So, this is one of those games. I look at this game and I think, why would they play this game? Can't they get somebody better? But I do kind of like that they're doing it with an in-state team. And remember, guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but for a long time, Oregon didn't even really, before they joined the Pac-12 in the mid-60s, Oregon didn't even have a real stadium. And so when USC and UCLA would have to play Oregon, they would only play them at the baseball stadium in Portland. So certainly Oregon and Portland have a lot of history together, as far as the school and the city. And so I think it's kind of a neat thing they're bringing the state together. But I don't know, Chris, is there any chance this is going to be a game?
Nope. Gear up and warm up for Texas Tech and Lubbock, because that's like really the only game Oregon has until about mid-October. And this one is not one of them. Oregon names its score and moves on with a win, and should already be practicing for Texas Tech.
I agree. I think Oregon just rolls in this one. I don't know what the line is, but I don't think they will humiliate them, because I think that they will take it easy. They'll get a lot of people in. They'll get a lot of looks at their guys, and pretty much treat it as a scrimmage or a preseason warm up. But again, kind of neat that they're taking the in-state team. All right, next up to bat. And this is going to be a good game. We've got the Dogs and Boise. So the Broncos rolling into Husky Stadium. I mean, this is Coach Pete's old team coming up back. Washington, highly ranked. The world expects a lot from Washington, but is Boise going to be able to pull another miracle? What do you think, Chris?
I don't think it's the same kind of Boise teams that we had in the Chris Peterson era, right? There's some people I've heard more and more talk about Boise in the last 5 days, making this maybe a little bit more interesting than I originally thought it might be. It's an interesting matchup in the Chris Peterson Bowl between DeBoer and that offense, and a defensive-minded coach at Boise State in Andy Avalos. Boise has an interesting quarterback in a guy named Taylon Green, who was pretty good as a redshirt freshman last year. And it might be an interesting test for the Washington secondary, which is a little bit of a question mark for them, right? So I think it's a good game for Washington in terms of seeing where they're at and where they want to be. But I don't think when it comes to the end of the game that the Boise State offense is going to be able to keep up with. I think they'll have some success at certain points, and if they don't have any, then I think that's a really good sign for Washington's secondary going forward. But I don't think they'll be able to keep up, and I think the Huskies end up winning something like 35-24.
And Chris, who's keeping track of the picks, Tim in Exile just gave us a few of his picks right there on the screen. And hopefully he'll be back with us if he get his sound squared away. He's been popping in and out sometimes of the back room. Yeah, Chris, I agree with you. I take a look at this one, and I want there to be a big game. I think it would be amazing if Boise won. I remember when Montana went to Husky Stadium and won a couple of years ago. It was pretty wild. But I do think Washington is a really good team. I think they really have their act together. And I think they pull it off, but I would not be shocked to see Boise be able to come with it. But I got to go for the Dogs. So dubs up on this one. And Rick has joined us in also picking Washington. So Boise fans, I hope you guys can pull it off. But I think the dogs are pretty darn good. All right. This is what I think might be the upset special of the week. Chris, your family's California Golden Bears are going to Denton, Texas to play North Texas, the Mean Green in Denton. Kind of a wild stadium. I love that ridiculous, weird sort of odd shaped end zone stands they have there. You guys can see it in the picture. Chris, what do we think? Is Oski going to face a test, or will the Bears come out with a win?
Oh, they're definitely going to face a test, but whether they win or lose, the University of North Texas was a 7-5 until they lost their conference title game, and they lost their bowl game. They have a new head coach that was there. Neither of these defenses were that great last year, but they were especially not a great defense last year in yards per play. So it'll be interesting to see what new Cal offensive coordinator Spavata, I can't say his name right, and transfer quarterback who they named the starter, Sam Jackson from TCU, what they're able to accomplish in the new offense. I think this is going to be, well, first of all, I don't know why Cal is ever scheduling this game, because if you're going to do a home and home with someone, I don't know why it's North Texas. No offense to any North Texas fans in the chat. I'm sure someone else has taken North Texas for an upset. But as someone that hasn't quite buried Cal as much as some people, I see some people saying that like they're going to be awful, maybe they're the worst team in the conference. I don't think that that's true. Someone else on this show, on this panel, I'm sure took North Texas, but I will roll with the Bears and Oski and take my lumps next week if it doesn't turn out very well for them.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I'm having technical issues now. It's that kind of night. We got no Chris. We got Tim having technical nightmares, and I'm having technical adventures here too. You went with Cal?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
If I cut
sorry,
out, yes.
I was
not
cutting
going to
out
be
there with.
The upset is very alive. They could easily lose, but I'm not going to be the one that picks North Texas.
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo that. This one worries me because I think Cal has some potential this year, but North Texas is not bad. But at the same time, Cal got a lot of transfers in, and so Cal has really done some roster upgrades. They've also got some new coaches, and their new quarterback's supposed to be not bad. So you know what? I'm going for the Bears to come out with a win, but I think it's going to be a better game than people think. And it's going to be Saturday, 4 p.m. From Denton. And you know what? For UNT, pretty cool that they've got Cal coming out there. So that's pretty neat. Although at this rate, might be a conference game next year. So we'll have to see. Yeah, don't count that out. That is not an impossible conference game next year. All right. The game of my weekend. We've got the LA Coliseum Saturday night on the Pac-12 network. USC's last ever game expected on the Pac-12 network. USC in Nevada. What do you think, Chris? Are the Wolfpack going to shock them?
No, but it's less fun to rib SC for its partial shortcomings when Tony and Rick aren't around to listen to it and be able to respond. So I think a couple of things are true. I think that San Jose State was really well coached and played very well. I think the easy thing to say is that the defense is exactly the same as it was last year. It has a ton of problems. I don't know if it's as bad as everyone immediately wants to think. When the interesting stat or split I saw was that when Eric Gentry was actually on the field, and I don't know why it's just him, but someone broke this down where when Eric Gentry was on the field, I think 4 of the 7 possessions or 5 of them, maybe I'm exaggerating, were 3 and outs. And I think they probably did have some good spots there. I think we'll learn a lot more about what that first week actually meant. It wasn't as pretty and great as what an SC fan would have wanted to see, but I also think it's still a bit too early, in my opinion, to just immediately make some giant conclusion about how the rest of the season will be. Because I mean, like I think about UCLA as an example of this last year's, right? Is like after South Alabama, everyone's ready to write us off completely as a team. Then we beat Utah and Washington at home. Now everyone's like, oh wow, this team's like borderline like top 15, top 10, and like really hot on us. And then the truth ends up being, somewhere in the middle of those two kind of more extreme results on the season. And the question is like whether this is a bad result for SC or if there's more in the tank and we haven't seen yet. Again, I don't think it's like it's definitely not what SC fans wanted to see. And I'm happy personally with the way it went as a fan of the other school across town. But I don't know that if it's fair to just immediately think that that's necessarily how the rest of the season is going to go. It might, it very well could. And that's the evidence we have thus far. But I'm going to slow my roll and wait a little bit longer to actually make any giant conclusions on that. On a different note, Zachariah Branch, wow. That kid,
He's good, isn't he?
Really, really good. I'm not crowning him as like the next Reggie Bush, like some people, but that kid is really good. So, yes, SE is going to dominate this game. The only positive note I have about Nevada is that Steve Alford does not also coach football. So that's the only positive thing I can say about the Nevada football team is that their basketball coach is not also their football coach. Other than that, SC names its score. And
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say a couple things about this game. One thing is, I want to give a shout out to Nebraska. You guys know, friend of the show, friend of the pod, who we love, USC star John Jackson Jr., legendary USC wide receiver, son of a legendary USC coach, and famous USC broadcaster. Friend of the show. He's been on a bunch of times, and we love JJ. He's amazing. And his son, JJ3, John Jackson III, was a former USC wide receiver, has graduated with 2 USC degrees, and is now getting another master's degree at Nevada as a grad transfer. So I do hope USC rolls. I hope USC whips them. But I want a strong game from JJ3. I want to see John Jackson III have a strong game. I want to see him in the college. I know that our defense, we want a really good showing from the fans want a really good showing from the defense. I'm hoping JJ3 gets a touchdown because he deserves it. Because for all that he has done for USC and all that his family has done for USC. With that said, from a fan standpoint, I think the fans want to see a solid defensive game here, and hopefully Nevada will provide that. I think that last week they treated it like a preseason game. They treated it like a scrimmage, and the coaching. I mean, my dad's a football coach. My uncle's a baseball coach. I come from a family of coaches and uncles and cousins and everything else. And so I look at it and it makes sense to me what they did. At the same time, the fans are incensed and in panic about this. I think the fans can pretty much settle down. I think USC is going to roll with this, but we're going to see if they've kind of got things a little more together. I think we're going to see them slowly as each week gets progressively more challenging because USC has kind of a very interesting long ramp up schedule of difficulty. I think we're going to see them take it easy. I think the coaches are okay winning by 28 points. So, we'll see what happens here. I'm going to pick USC. I'm going to pick USC to roll, but I am going to hope that the JJ3 for Nevada has a good game. So for him, I'm going to give him go Wolfpack in addition to my usual fight on. We want to thank Slap Happy for the super sticker there. Thank you for that. We really appreciate that. Your support of the show makes a big difference. And to all you guys, super chats, super stickers, all that kind of stuff really helps Mark and our Voice of College Football community. So we thank you for that on behalf of everybody. Wait, hold on. Is Tim back? Is it working? We may have Tim here for the USC pick. We're going to hold it here as we wait to see if he has success. Oh, do you want me to add you in?
Can you hear my mic?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you through. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm going through both. I'm going through phone for audio, and there's my camera. Sorry about that. Is the audio? Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. We got Tim.
It's the best I could do.
All
Sorry.
right. All right, Tim is perfect. And Tim, in celebration of your rejoining us, Sean Garner has just joined the channel. So thank you, Sean, for joining the channel. That really helps. And as Tim gets his mic squared away there, also, you guys, if you could hit like and subscribe, I know it sounds dorky. Everybody hits it, makes a huge difference to the channel. So truly, guys, just take a second, please, for Mark and the whole community, and in celebration of Tim rejoining us, if you could hit like and subscribe, that would be a big help. And Larry giving a $5 super chat for the Utes. Go Utes! I told you I'm cheering for you guys. Tim, SC, Nevada. What do you think?
Yeah. I think this would be a one-sided affair. First time they played since 1929. I think of this game. See, this is going to be a team that's struggling. They've lost coaches recently. They're in disarray. I do like the fact you're right. They have Elijah Winston, a linebacker from USC, Louis back, as well as JJ3 at receiver. But this is just going to be the haves and the have-nots, and it's going to be a one-sided affair. USC rolls.
Tim, do you have any nuggets you want to drop on the games that we've already covered, or do you want to just keep moving forward?
It's kind of hard to hear. Well, I would say that you did a great job, Chris, on everything. For me, I literally I know it's boring, but I'm going chalk the whole way. I mean, I want, not that I want to, but I think that Cal might get a scare. But other than that Cal game, I don't see anything really where I think even trying to go for an upset would be. And if it's going to be that kind of game, I'm going to pull for Cal.
Except I think you had Hawaii, right? Even though it's only like 3.5.
Hawaii's a 3.5 dog.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. To me, that game is almost a pick 'em, and I just think because of travel and everything else, and just new staff, new schemes, everything. There could be a little bit of mess. The jet lag might be on the field and off the field. So I mean, that one's worrisome for the Cardinal. And I agree with your point. This is one of those ones they need. They need this game because I going forward, and they are the worst team in the conference, and this is a game they're going to have to win. But I don't see it happening.
I think the other ones are a little bit more straightforward. But if you had anything on Utah, Florida happening tomorrow, and what you think about that, I think I saw you in chat saying that you thought the tight end was going to play, which is different than what I thought I had heard. But
this is about 4 days ago. I heard Keefe was playing. But they're just as tight, all coaches now, it's kind of a gamesmanship kind of thing.
Right.
But I mean, I like Utah because they're returning, they're a solid squad. Sure. They lose guys, but they're returning 7 on offense and 9 on defense. I think DeQuinton Rodgers could, he's a great back, he's a great back. And I think Brant Keefe's going to play. If he does, then I'm a lot more confident in this win. You made a good point. Barnes played against Washington State last year. Is that right?
Yeah, I think he saw time in a lot more games than that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not if he's just a game manager. I mean, on defense, they got Tafuna, Reed, and Bishop Cole. Those guys are all Pac-12. They got a solid defense. It's a shame, even with Filger and Barton. Those guys, they're going to play tough. Rising being out, it's a big hit. I mean, it sucks. We thought this game was going to be really a great game with Florida finally coming and playing at Rice-Eccles. But the issue is going to be the fact that this is not the same team without Cam Rising. I mean, everyone knows that. You got not just his ability, but his leadership, right? The guy just takes a massive hit in that championship game, pops up like nothing happened, and just keeps playing. I mean, this guy's tough. He's a gamer. I think it takes a lot of the wind out of the sail from the guys. He's really he's a heart and soul of that team. They're gonna have to find some way. I'm sure they got some leadership there. They're gonna have to find some way in order to make it happen. And if they're gonna do it, it's gonna be on the ground with a strong run game. I think they should have a solid run game. And then the big question is, like you said, Kincaid. And we're talking about maybe he's coming back. Well, if maybe he's coming back, that means he's not coming back 100%. but it's hard to tell. I've been hearing for a while that he's coming back. If you heard something recently, like lately, that he's not coming back?
Sorry, not Kincaid, right? But
I'm not Kincaid. I'm sorry, Keefe. Sorry.
yeah. Kincaid was their awesome dude last year.
Yeah, that was guy last year. Yeah, they lost him
in Utah.
Keefe was a stud before Kincaid. You know, they had big plans for him, and
yeah.
So yeah, I really don't have a lot to add other than that game's just not the game it should have been. You know, and they're thin. If Barnes goes down, that leaves us 2 freshmen and Nate Johnson. You know, for their season. So you know that Florida's gonna be hitting hard. That losing Rose is huge for them. That made them go from, you know, they've gone from pretty decently deep at quarterback to very thin all of a sudden. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. And then you guys talked about the Oregon game, right?
Yep.
How that's going to be a snoozer by the first quarter.
Exactly. All right. And one last thing real quick before we move on. We put our favorite friend of the show, Miller Moss, on our picture here because we're hoping he gets lots of playing time. All right. Next up to bat, guys. Moving on. Actually, another real quick thing. For those of you guys in the LA area, for away games this year, we're going to try something really awesome. So if you're in the LA area for away games, we're going to have a special post-game live from Tustin Brewing Company. So if you're in the LA area, we'd love to have you there. There's going to be some Trojan special guests. You can come on the show live from there, and we would love to have you guys check out Tustin Brewing Company after the games, or watch the game there, and then join us live after the game there, which would be pretty fun. So that's going to be pretty cool. Moving on. An
Still no mic, right?
game. What?
Is this mic working? No, not working.
I think so, yeah.
I think it might be coming. Your
no, hold on.
audio
Let
on the
me.
other one is still, yeah.
Is he working?
No.
Nope.
Just your phone or the other account.
All right, never mind. Thought I'd try again. Love StreamYard.
So exactly. So an interesting game here, guys. Washington State and Colorado State. What do we make of this one? In Kansas State, another Pac-12 teams are going to the G5 this week. I think there's 3 or 4 games where Pac-12 teams are going to the G5. And Wazoo is headed to Fort Collins. What do you guys think of this one?
Cam Ward's in another year, but it's under a new offensive coordinator, Ben Abernuckle, from Western Kentucky, where they were second in passing in the entire country. So it'll be interesting to see what Cam Ward does with another year of experience under his belt. I wasn't as high on him as some people at the beginning of last year, and I still don't think he's, in the upper echelon of quarterbacks in this conference, because I think that's a very hard thing to be. But it'll be interesting to see what he can do with another year under his belt, and a guy calling plays that comes from an offense last year that was very, very successful. Colorado State was young last year, is expected to be quite improved. I thought it was really interesting, the betting line on this, and not because of like something like Cam Rising, where the line went from like 10 in that game to 4 because Cam Rising was hurt. The line on this game, was like 16 at one point, maybe during the summer, and has moved all the way to 11. I think there's some people out there that know more than the average bear that have a lot of faith in this Colorado State team being quite a bit improved. I think they'll have their moments, but in the end, I think Washington State just get some stops off of their defensive ends, off of sacks. Guys like Jackson and Ron Stone, and Colorado State can't quite keep up. But I think it might be a little bit interesting at times. So I have Washington State, but I think it might be more interesting than some people might think. Is your other account on mute right now?
Probably, yeah. I was checking Mike. So it's probably a situation where I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see the new offense with Cam Ward behind it. And you can't. I mean, Nakia Watson can run the ball. That dude, he's a talented back. And I am interested to see what they can do on defense. Losing a lot actually on defense, a lot of tackles. I'm blanking out on the name. But this year. I don't see that. I think I'm taking a step back, but the problem is for Colorado State is I still think that they have the better team talent wise, and I look for Washington State to win the game.
I think that's a pretty good assessment, Tim. One of the interesting things about this game that sort of reflects on the future is Colorado State was a candidate to join the Pac in expansion, and depending on some of the, we heard today interesting comments from Mike Oresco backing away from the sort of talk about Pac mergers or whatnot. So it may well be, a lot of people think that means that it looks like the remaining Pac-2 and the Mountain West may, do some kind of reverse merger or something like that. I guess we'll see. But this may be the first of many Washington State, Colorado State games to come. And I think it'll hopefully be a pretty cool one at that. Colorado State is a beautiful, brand new stadium. They have spectacular facilities. And, I'm going to enjoy just kind of checking this one out and watching it. But I do think Washington State has too much power, like you guys said. I think Cameron Ward's really good quarterback. And I think that Washington State will get themselves a pretty good win here and set themselves up well, because the other thing that's pretty sweet is that next week, Wisconsin's coming to the Palouse to take on Washington State. So, we may see Washington State take it a little easy in this game if they get a decent lead, but looking forward to it. And Rick says Wazoo over CSU. All right. Another interesting one. Another one of those. What are we going to see, guys? Arizona and Northern Arizona. Is there going to be an in-state upset?
So,
the good news is...
Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to go really quick. The good news for Arizona's defense is that I think that they actually can get some stops on the ground against Northern Arizona. So that's the one positive on that side of the ball. But it's all going to be on offense side of the ball for Arizona all year. They're going to sling the ball around a lot, and you have Tatanoa McMillan. He's a big time receiver. They got Cowing still, and they're just going to light it up through the air. And so that's really, those are my expectations for Arizona. This one's gonna be a snoozer. Arizona actually I think we'll have trouble in the beginning because I'm still not sold on. It's one of the worst defenses, obviously, in the Pac-12, but they'll pull away. Arizona wins this one.
So I'll try to be even quicker because I think it's a funny little story that NAU came into Arizona in 2021 and actually beat them 21-19. Which is kind of hilarious because I don't think they have any chance in this game. If I'm being completely honest with you, I will be watching South Alabama, 10-win South Alabama versus New York 6 winner Tulane before this starts, up until the point around when UCLA versus Coastal Carolina comes on. So congratulations, Arizona. I'm sure you'll win by like 30 points, and I probably won't see a second of it.
Yeah, and I forgot even to bring up Michael Wiley. He's one of the more underappreciated running backs in the Pac-12 as well. So look for them to run it up on Northern Arizona.
I agree with you guys. I think they're going to run away with it. I will say one kind of cool thing about Northern Arizona. I know this is going to sound super dorky, but I think it says a lot about the school and the athletic department, at least. The Big Sky commissioner's son plays basketball for Northern Arizona. And if I were at school, I would almost be terrified of having the commissioner's kid in the program. Like, you're a little bit of walking on eggshells. So, they're confident they run a pretty great athletic program. And if the commissioner lets his kid play in your athletic program, that you have a pretty good athletic program. So anyway, and that's a weird little side thing, but I'm giving it as a shout out for Northern Arizona. I think Arizona rolls because I think Arizona wants revenge for that last loss. So I don't think it's going to be too close.
And that's if Jay Delorto is getting fights on the sidelines with his receivers too. So we're assuming like nothing bizarre happens in the game, right?
I forgot about that. I did forget about that. Yeah, and I'll tell you, by the way, Can we ask just a real question? Jaden DeLora gave the weirdest, strangest, most horrific, and like legally, why would you do that? Answer to the issues with his sexual assault case at Pac-12 Media Day, and then was saved by George Kliakov's misspeak and Rick George's, childish tantrum departure. So Arizona saved by the bell at Pac-12 Media Day with Jaden DeLora. We'll see what happens with the season opener. All right. And Rick, Rick agrees with us. Rick says Arizona over NAU. All right. A game that may be more interesting than people think. My friends in the South say UCLA, don't sleep on them. Guys, the Bruins and Coastal Carolina. What do we think?
Go ahead. This is yours, Chris.
All right, I'll go ahead. Todd Gwynn wanted me in chat to make a point of pointing out point spread. So this one's I think sitting at UCLA favored by 14.5 right now. Coastal has a new coach. Tim Beck will be replacing Chadwell who's going to Liberty, and I think took a lot of his staff with him, which I think is a very helpful thing because I think that a lot of people think that guy's a really good coach, which would make sense because they've been very good lately. And if he was still there and you combine that with Grayson McCall, I was starting to get the feeling of like, oh, this is like when DeBoer and Jake Haener came into the Rose Bowl. You have an experienced, a coach that a lot of people don't know about, and a great experienced quarterback that, Grayson McCall is a bigger name than Haener was at the time. So yeah, you get some like heebie-jeebies about that as a UCLA fan. But it's a new coach, Tim Beck. Both teams were terrible defensively last year, and both have new defensive coordinators. So they're at least trying to do something to address it. I see you have the picture of our starting quarterback, Garbers, next to our other quarterback who will also play, named Dante Moore. But you left out Colin Schlee, who has been announced to also be seeing snaps. So apparently we will have 3 quarterbacks playing. I have kind of some suspicions on what Colin Schlee might be doing, and it might be kind of different, where I think we have a competition for starter, and then you might see Schlee as like a special packages kind of guy throughout the year, no matter what happens with the other 2 as to who comes out starting. And I'll try to be quick, but I know I've kind of dragged on. You get scared of like the Chip Kelly, preseason or non-conference season kind of experimental type stuff, and saying you're going to play 3 quarterbacks for sure is definitely kind of part of that, and feels very Chip experimentally worrisome in a non-conference game kind of style. But Coastal Carolina is very, very small, and I think we're going to be able to run the ball at will on them. I know we're replacing a lot of people on the offensive line, and I've said this stat before, but for the people that haven't heard it, UCLA had the most yards per rush before contact in the entire country. And they added Carson Steele to that, who had the most yards after contact per rush in the entire country. So those are 2 really nice stats when you put them together. I think that they have said that Harden is technically going to be the starting running back, but I think they're both going to play. And I think that we are going to be able to control the game on the ground as much as we want. And I actually think that it's not the Fresno State kind of game, and I've kind of changed on this. I think we end up winning by about 17 or so, something like or maybe like 41-24, 41-21, something like that.
Yeah, you said 14.5?
That's the spread, yeah.
Yeah, this is only their 3rd time the Bruins dipping into the Sun Belt Conference, and I think that they've had success in the past, and they're going to have success again. I can't wait, because I know we're going to see some snaps from at center from Dante Moore. That's gonna be interesting. And then you were telling me all along, everyone's talking about Carson Steele. But you were talking about Harden again all summer long, so that's gonna be interesting to see both those guys. I do think that's gonna be strong. I'm interested to see how much impact that the transfer from USC, Kyle Ford. I think he's an absolute stud. Originally, he's a 5-star. I think you guys will be very happy with him, and also bringing down Michael Sturvant from Cal. I mean, the offense just looks sick. So this one should be a snoozer again. I think. I don't think it's gonna be as close as 14 points. I think they cover, and they cover probably easily.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be slow at points. There might be growing pains switching quarterbacks, throughout the game and whatnot. But I do think that we can control the game on the ground mostly because I don't think that Coastal's defense was not good last year. Obviously, neither was ours, and they have a new defensive coordinator. But I think they're just smaller. I think we're going to be able to push them around a little bit more than people might think.
Well, and you still have Latu coming back. He's going to be dangerous. And unfortunately, you have Jay Toya, the turncoat, playing for you in the middle there. He was an SC guy that switched. So I'll be keeping an eye on his play. I guess he's projected. Is he starting?
Are you talking about Kyle Ford? Sorry.
No, not Kyle Ford. See, Kyle Ford actually got his degree from USC and played and beat the Bruins. Jay Toya ran and scared it and bailed at the very beginning, right as soon as the summertime. I think it was before, right after spring ball. I think he took off. I think one of the coaches called it, said he had an elephant head and he bailed. Like literally, I think that's the story behind it. Not the fact that he left, but I think Helton called him. He had a head the size of an elephant. I think that probably pissed him off.
I kind of come through the depth chart, but I didn't look at it too closely. But if you're going to talk about the other side of the ball real quick, I think this is like a very good test for our new defensive coordinator and the weakness of our team being the secondary. Because although I think that we win this game, I do think that Grayson McCall is a very, very good quarterback, and I do think they're going to have their opportunities at certain points to test that secondary, and it'll be very if this is more of a game than I think it is, it's because Coastal is able to keep up with us by Grayson McCall having an outstanding performance against the secondary that maybe isn't as improved as I hope it is.
And I think that's going to be the real question is will they be able to keep up? Because if they can, it could be a heck of a game. And it could be something we see, like that Fresno State game a couple years ago. But in general, I think UCLA, like you said, Chris, has too many horses. I think they control the line of scrimmage, and that'll lead to, hopefully a good win for them to kick off the season. And Rick agrees with us. Rick says UCLA over Coastal Carolina. All right. And our last game of the week, guys. No, we have two more. Sorry. We have one more. We have a Sunday game. And this is kind of cool. This is a Sunday game on Big CBS for Oregon State traveling to San Jose to take on San Diego State. Now, we saw Cordero looked pretty good. What do we think he's going to do against the Beaver defense, guys?
Go ahead, Chris.
Sure. So, I already talked about it earlier when we were talking about SC and talked about it last week, but San Jose State's like very well coached. I won't get into the coach where he came from and whatnot, but again, I think they did some really good things against SC. And whether that was more about Cordero and the San Jose State offense, or that was more about the SE defense, or a little bit of both, I think we learn a lot from this game and how that plays out. I think that DJU again doesn't have to do very much to be in a vast improvement for Oregon State at the quarterback position, and they're going to be able to lean on Martinez and that very good offensive line to control the game. Cordero, again, who's a very good quarterback for San Jose State, is going to be able to probably extend some plays and run around a bit, but Oregon State ends up winning this game probably something like 31-14, 34-17, something like that. I think they control it. I think they're better. And I think it'll be a very interesting game to watch to try to learn a little bit more about the Beavs and the Trojans in terms of having a common opponent.
Tim, what do you think?
Well, I don't know how much we're going to get for common opponents because it depends on exactly how. I don't know if you guys talked about the US, and when you talked about USC, the fact that it was literally a glorified scrimmage with all the rotational stuff that they were doing, just trying to find guys on the offensive line. I mean, so that's not really. But the issue is going to be they lost a lot on defense. I love the Bees. Sorry, they lost a lot on defense. I love the Bees offense. I can't wait to see what DJ Uyunglele is going to be able to do as a quarterback. You know, I think it's going to be a huge step up from what they had going on last year. The offensive line solid, as we know, it's going to be one of the better offensive line units in the Pac-12. Running Damian Martinez is going to go off in this game, running behind that offensive line. So either way, it's going to be solid on offense. The question is losing. What's the effect going to be of losing Omar Spates right in the middle, a linebacker? What's going to be the situation knowing they lost Rajon Wright and Alex Austin at corner? Those are the guys, if you remember, that gave USC fits and they had a hard time. So it'll be interesting how they replace them. I don't know how. Those are some real high level dudes. If they can come close to that, they'll be great in the season for this initial game. They have enough to beat San Jose State, but I don't think we're going to see. It depends on how they play their game. I think they're going to be playing their starters and doing a traditional game. So I think they win, but you can't do too many parallels because it's just not the same game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do love this comment from our good friend of the show, Conference Commissioner Gumby. San Jose State wins. They get to reclaim some land in Westwood. Funny history note on that for those of you who don't know. UCLA was originally a normal school. It was part of San Jose State until Cal basically stole it in 1919. So some funny history there. UCLA was stolen from San Jose State by Cal Berkeley. But as far as the game goes, I think you're right. I think Oregon State's going to go solid. I think they're going to win. I think we're going to see a lot from DJU. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I do think Cordero will have a good game. I think he's a good quarterback. He made a lot of people thought he was good Mountain West preseason offensive player of the year. He looked great last week. So, yeah, but I think that Oregon State may put more of the screws to them on defense than USC did. Like Tim talked about exactly, and Tim talked about a couple of shows really well about how USC had so many people coming in. I think Oregon State probably won't be doing that. It'll be a good game and kind of fun for Oregon State Beavs fans in San Jose to actually be able to catch that game. So one other game, you guys, because we cover Notre Dame always, because Notre Dame is a rival of a couple of Pac-12 schools. Now, Notre Dame is playing Tennessee State, coached by Eddie George, which is pretty sweet. One thing here that I think is pretty interesting. So some of you guys know Tennessee State, probably not as strong a team, but what's interesting here is that Notre Dame is breaking their streak. As of this year, right now, there are only 2 schools in all of FBS who have never played an FCS or 1AA school since the creation of 1AA when they split into divisions. Those are Notre Dame and USC. So Notre Dame is going to break that streak on Saturday afternoon. However, what's kind of cool about this is that it's going to be the first time an HBCU has ever taken the field at Notre Dame Stadium. So, it's maybe kind of a rough game for Tennessee State, but I think it's going to be really kind of a historical and powerful moment there when Tennessee State takes the field. Guys, any chance they can pull a Marshall-like upset?
No, that Marshall team was actually like way better than people think. I'm not saying they were like world beaters or whatever. They were like that Marshall team was not bad. This Tennessee State team, no, they don't have a chance. My only thoughts on Notre Dame is that I want Notre Dame fans to have like 2 simultaneous thoughts in their brain. And the first is that Sam Hartman looked very good. And I think they answered some of their questions about who's going to be catching balls from him. And I think that he's going to be good for Notre Dame. But I think that a lot of quarterbacks are going to look very good against Navy for the rest of the year.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't want to take. I mean, I had my question. I've been making cracks all off season about the fact that they had elevated their tight ends coach to once Tommy Reese had left, that they had Gerard Parker become the new OC, and I have given Will and Dee such a hard time about it. But I agree, Chris. That was against Navy. But Sam Hartman looked just like we remember. I mean, the guy is accurate as the day is long. And if there's if you bust any coverages, wherever, he's got a laser. He's going to make it happen. Audric Estime, not only just running the ball in the backfield, but he caught one in the flat. He just took it. That guy is going to be a stud and a load to take down. And then the receiver, Merriweather, he also showed me some stuff. He's young, but he's big, he's tall, he's physical. He can high point the ball. He's something special. And then running right behind Joe Alt, who's probably one of the best left tackles in the game. So I look for this one to be one hell of a spanking.
Oh, looks like Tim's having voice issues again. Tim, I agree with you on that. I think they're going to whip him pretty good. I do think it's pretty cool. Now remember, Eddie George and Marcus Freeman, both two Ohio State legends, facing off in Notre Dame Stadium, which is kind of funny. But I think Sam Hartman's going to have another heroic week here against Tennessee State. All right, so moving on, guys. What we'd love is for you guys to call into the show. So we're going to put the link up right now and put the link in the chat. We'd love to have you call into the show. We're going to take just 1 minute and quickly do our power rankings here. But for those of you guys who'd like to call in, we want to hear what you think of these games. So let me put this up right there. You can call in with any phone, any laptop, any device that is connected to the internet and has a microphone. You can call in with, and we would love to have you guys join us. So there's a QR code right there, and the link is in the chat. And we would love to hear from you guys about your teams and your games. And as we get some calls coming in here, let's take a look at our power rankings. So one of the things we do here on the show every week, as you guys remember, is we do a Pac-12 power ranking. So let's start from the bottom up, guys. Team number 12, the prediction for the worst team in the Pac-12. We have some unanimous votes here for Stanford. As Tim gets this sorted out, Chris, what do you think? Stanford dead last?
Yeah. I think there's an argument for a lot of other spots on this, but going into the season, I think you have to put them at the bottom. I think people can argue other spots like 7 through 11 and be reasonable, but I think you have to put Stanford at the bottom of this list, at least to start the year, in my opinion.
All right. Number 11, but with Rick's exception. Rick put a little more faith in CU, but the rest of us think they are dead last. What do you think? You concur?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll prove all of us wrong, and the people saying that they're going to win 6 or 8 or 10 games are going to be correct. But I think it's hard to turn. I don't, even with all of the talent, the overhaul and whatnot, it's hard to turn things around that quickly. And I don't know. I just don't see it yet from them. Schedule's brutal, even though that's not part of like the power ranking. So
all right.
As we move forward, sorry, real quick, just so people know, this isn't a where do you think they will finish in the end of the season ranking. It's a like, if all these people played on a neutral field, who would win at this point in time.
That's a good point. Thank you for that. All right. So next, ASU was our next one. And then after ASU came Cal. Although I just want to point out, I showed Conference Commissioner Gumby, our other Cal fans in the chat right now, I showed some love to the Bears. I think they're not going to be as bad as people think. Chris, am I wrong?
I don't think that they're going to be as bad as people think, but I think that there's a lot of teams that might be better than them. I think that the like ASU, California, Colorado, Arizona group kind of can go, in any order. But I'm not ready to bury Cal quite as much as most people, or a lot of people are. I don't have them 7th, but I think it's very possible that the people I have, 8 through 11, move around quite a bit and quite drastically after the first couple of weeks.
All right. Next up, we had a little cluster filling up this year from 7 to 12 with Wazoo and Arizona. I love the Wildcats. I back the A, bear down. I don't know if they're as good as Washington State, so we'll have to see with that. Am I wrong in that?
No, I think that I'd love to hear Tim's take on Arizona. It's interesting. I mean, I think that the reason I have Washington State the highest, I think, is because I think that they're most likely to go to a bowl game. Although that then starts to get into records and is maybe not true power ranking style, but that's sort of how I did it in my brain, probably subconsciously, if I'm thinking that way. Arizona is interesting. Obviously, they beat UCLA in the Rose Bowl last year, so I can't talk too much. But there's a lot of teams that can say this in this conference, and we're beating a dead drum, but or beating a dead horse. I mix my metaphors. That rush defense last year was like god awful. They made people think that Jaden Ott was like the next, the same way people were talking about Zachariah from SC, Zach Branch this past week. People were talking about Jaden Ott, after that Arizona game, which ended up being like a third of his rushing yards for the entire year and made Cal fans think that their offensive line had figured it out. So yeah, if they don't solve that rush defense, like I have trouble putting them above Washington State until I see something there.
All right, next up.
Tim, I think you need your other account on Streamyard, maybe. There you go.
Nope. Hold on, we just added it in.
There you go. Am I echoing?
Yep, we got you now.
Okay, good.
And Tim, we just added UCLA in there at 6th.
Okay.
Real quick, anything on your picks so far? Before we get
everything. I agree with a lot of what Chris just said. The issue with Arizona is that they lost a lot. Again, a lot of them coming to USC, and the fact their defense. But I'm still trying to weigh in my head, because Henley was a huge part of Washington State's defense as well. So those two, like you said, I think, Chris, these bottom 3, 4, maybe you can flip them around a lot. The bottom 2 are where they should be, but these 3 right here, sandwiched between Colorado and UCLA, those 4, sorry, it gets a bit fuzzy. I just think that Arizona has the most offense of the 4, and that's why I'm giving them the lead. It's just those 4 are tough to call, but I think that it's a solid. And then UCLA has the better, just the better offense completely.
All right. And real quick, guys, once again, if you haven't already, please just take a moment. We know it sounds dorky, but it makes a huge difference. Really helps the channel. If you could just take a minute, hit the like and subscribe button. Like we said, really makes a huge difference for the channel. So if you guys could do that, we really appreciate it. All right. Next up, we've got an interesting kind of mix here. Utah and Oregon State. Everybody's kind of flipping them around. What do you guys think here? And Rick is going for some serious Beaver love. Tim, you and Chris have Utah above Oregon State. What do we think?
Just over, you heard my speech. I think that Oregon State's gonna have a great offense. This is not a again, this is a power ranking like Chris clarified. This is neutral field kind of stuff. I think that UCLA and Oregon State are going to have the cleaner path to having a really good Pac-12 conference season. But I just think Utah overall as a team on just front 7 and the lines are just a little bit stronger. Obviously, I think OSU has probably the best offensive line of the group. Again, I think they also have all 3 teams have great running backs. The question why I gave Utah the slight bump is because of defense, because I think that the Beavers, I'm just going to say it again. They lost 2 star cornerbacks and their heart and soul space in the middle. So that's going to be tough to replenish.
Echoing that a little bit, I have Oregon State and UCLA 5 and 6, but I kind of think that one of them might have a chance to be second or third by the end of the year and be in the conference title game. And I think one or both of them will be at least be in the top 4 of the standings. The way things play out, I had trouble taking putting a Utah team that's won back-to-back conference championships lower than 4th. That just felt unreasonable in my brain. We'll see what happens with Cam and what the situation is going forward throughout the year. But to start the season when we haven't seen any of these teams play down a football all year besides SC, I don't know how I just had a lot of trouble putting Utah any lower than I already did based on what they've done the last 2 years.
And let's face it, they always start slow anyway. So let's just say rising up there the first couple of games is not going to matter. Once they get the meat and potatoes of their season, and Cam comes in, and let's say he's near 100%, they're just going to start. And then Keithy, he's going to be rolling. Yeah, I just think they have too much going on to put them lower than that as well.
All right, and then some unanimity. I can't even talk tonight. It's getting late. To wrap up here with the mostly number 2 and number 3. Tim and Rick say the Dogs over the Ducks. Chris and I think the Ducks over the Dogs. Just real quick here because we got callers waiting and I don't want to hold them up anymore. Just real quick, Washington, Oregon. Give us your quick early prediction.
One has more talent than the other, and would argue with SC that they have as much talent and might be the most talented team in the league. So that's why I have Oregon higher.
I agree. They do have slightly better players, but I think that Washington has better coaching, as well as the fact that they're just bringing back Odunze, Polk, and McMillan. Those guys with Penix, it's unless you see injury. Both teams, by the way, have lost a lot of guys on the offensive line, and I know that Washington and both of them have some replacements, but it's close. This is another one where you can almost flip a coin, but I just see Washington as the better coaching, and I think they have the better offense.
All right. And then number 1, we hopefully don't have to spend too much time on this because it's unanimous. Fight on.
This thing's rigged. This thing's rigged.
It's rigged. It's rigged.
Must be all those Trojans on the team.
We even got the Bruin to pick USC. We'll take it. We'll take it. All right, guys. Those are our power rankings. Hey, we got some callers in the back. You know what? Let's have some fun. Let's bring on 2 right now. We've got Sean Garner and Larry Pilgrim, 2 great friends of the show. Guys, welcome. Welcome, Sean and Larry.
Great to be here.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
What do you guys think of the Pac games this week?
Well, the Pac games at USC, was that the only one this weekend?
That's the only one in week 0, yeah.
Okay. I'm excited for the Utah-Florida game. I wish Utah was at full strength coming in. I'd feel very comfortable picking them to win tomorrow, but I don't know that's one of the marquee matchups in a really bleak week 1. So I'm excited for that one. And couple upset spots. Cal heading to Denton. That's an interesting scheduling wrinkle right there. And Stanford and Hawaii. For the sake of the league, I hope you guys pull those ones out.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Larry, what do you think?
As long as the conference doesn't knock itself. I mean, I don't see any. I wouldn't chalk except for that Hawaii game over Stanford. I mean, that one. It's just for some intangible reasons. I think that the Cardinals going to find a way to lose, but I think it should be a solid week for the Pac-12.
Larry, what do you think?
So I'm interested to see UCLA what they roll out this year, replacing so much. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see what UCLA rolls out. I'm also interested to see what the Beavers can do on the road. Like Utah, the Beavers seem to hit the hiccups on the road. So I'm kind of curious to see how they do against San Jose. And then obviously the big one for me is the Utes. So hopefully we can contain the edges and contain that ground game of Florida. So
I feel like that's just going to be like a rock'em sock'em rock fight. Like, I think it's going to be bring your lunch pail, like, and tell me if you disagree, but it just seems like there's two teams that I think both think that they will be better in this game the more physical this game is. And both kind of think they have similar strengths and are both going to try to play to them. And I think it's going to be really interesting how it turns out.
yeah, this
I'll
is
be
gonna
I'll
be
be
like
really
that.
interested to see Graham Mertz in a different setting. He came on really strong initially at Wisconsin with a 5-star and played really well in his first couple games, and it was nothing but downhill after that. And I wonder how much of that was just the environment, just the talent and lack of creativity around him, and how much of that was he's just more limited than anyone really thought.
Right. Like the reports out of camp about him is that Florida's kind of excited about what they think they might have there with him. But like you said, I think we've heard this story before about him playing quarterback and what he looks like in camp. So I'm a little bit more wait and see. But I agree with you that it's definitely an interesting story as they move forward this year.
One thing about this game that I was looking forward to was getting to see a giant SEC team play at altitude and see what effect that was going to have on them in the fourth quarter. But because I think both this game is going to be a lot of ground pounding, like we're kind of talking about here, and there's going to be not that many drives, along with the new clock rules, which is also going to knock out maybe a couple possessions during this game. I wonder how much that is going to affect the bonus, Larry, that usually you guys have with having the big teams, big players on big teams play at altitude. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I brought that up before on High Top Sports. We were talking about that, and I think it's going to help shortening the game, well, speeding the game up, but shortening the amount of snaps that Florida is going to have to face. So I agree. It's going to be a little bit of a bonus for them, but like you said, these big guys, they're going to be huffing and puffing. They talk about the altitude, but what they don't understand is that dry desert. Like you cramp up so bad. I don't think they understand how that's going to work their muscles. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be remember that Michigan game, Harbaugh's first game at Rice-Eccles, and it was just a 24-17 rock fight that nobody was throwing the ball. It was just straight up knuckle fight. And I think that's what we're going to see. So.
It's sort of the opposite of the conditions in Florida with the same results, right? Results in a lot of, dry or hot and humid.
I've lived in both. I live in Florida. I've been in Utah, and it's just different. And I don't know why they didn't fly in earlier, because it's not jet lag, but there's like this decompression. When I would fly out to Florida, my body felt good. Actually, I get off the plane and I loved it because it was like, it felt good. But when I went back to Salt Lake, it took me, and I'm an athletic guy, it would take me a couple days for my body, just not even the air, just literally decompressing at that elevation. It's your body, it's not the same at elevation, not just your lungs, it's your body as well. So
that's why when you go up to Park City, to go snowboarding or skiing, you want to get up there a day and just chill out for a little bit, because you do have to give yourself a little bit of time to acclimate to that altitude. And like you said, it takes a couple of days, but if you go out there right away and you hit, you go out there, do any kind of running or moving around, it's going to knock you on it. And I'm sure they will. They'll have that day and a half or so, but I agree with you. I mean, it would be good for them. They got out there like 3-4 days ahead of time. It'll be interesting. It'll be a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is to play at Rice-Eccles. That's why you guys have a great record. But take it away, you guys have a great coach, great players, everything. But that is an experience in college football that's really unmatched. As far as talent and that altitude, it's a tough 1-2 punch, and it'll be interesting how they can navigate it.
And hey, I got a backstory here. If Utah wins this game with a walk-on third-string pig farmer, Oh my gosh, can you imagine what the heck's going to go down with all the Florida the jabs? Everybody just jabbing at them. So we got to win. We got to win.
You have to win. And unfortunately, this might be another narrative they'll use the entire year about the Pac-12. Well, they might have, but because Utah, like you guys always do, you're going to kill it in conference, and then they're going to point to the non-conference game that happened and say, "We'll see." Look at this. Look what happened to Georgia destroys Oregon. Well, that was their first game, new coordinators, new everything, new quarterback. They're trying to figure it all out. That same game, they're not going to beat Georgia, but it'll be a hell of a lot closer at the end of the year. And so, unfortunately, that's what drives narratives like this. So I'm really hoping for you guys to take care of business.
Yep. All right.
Sean, any thoughts?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm just okay. So interesting thing about Florida is it's viewed as kind of like this amazing job. It seems like it should be, right? It's one of these,
it definitely should be
areas. But if you take out the Meyer and the Spurrier eras over Florida, the last however long, 50 years, this is a completely mediocre program. They've done.
Hard to ignore all those national championships and SEC championships.
I was going to say, can I have that mediocrity?
That's quite a bit of history you want to wipe out.
But I mean, Meyer was there for 6 years. Spurrier was there for about 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a large data sample, you say, where they're not really that special. It hasn't really, for whatever reason, it hasn't really come together unless they've had an all-time great at the helm.
Yeah. Well, what they've done, what Spurrier built, and that what Meyer continued to do, with all those Zook players. I mean, it's hard to overlook that. And it's an SEC program. Florida is one of the best athletics programs in the country. So I mean, they
definitely
they're just being an SEC alone with the pageantry and history they have. It's absolutely a great job to have. And if they have the right guy, I don't know if Billy Napier is going to be that guy, but it's like they're one of those programs that if you get the right coach, you plug in the right coach, look out, because they can challenge anybody.
Right.
It's real interesting that the whole state of Florida seems to have that problem right now.
Well, yeah. All of them, all of them are subject to down spells, no question.
Well,
although I think Norvell is like the best coach of those three.
I agree. If they wake up down south and they start winning like they did in the 90s, that's why you're seeing, like a lot of Ohio State success, a lot of Alabama and Georgia success. There's a lot of Florida players on those teams. And if they keep those guys home, it changes the narrative. You wouldn't see such a top-heavy college football. So let's hope they do get better.
All right, guys. Anything else here on the games this week? Any other games?
The UCLA Coastal Carolina, I'm a little interested. I don't know what Coastal's expected to be this year. I think you guys had on the head UCLA should probably be kind of middle of the pack in the Pac-12.
I think yes and no. I think that our schedule is like Charmin soft. I won't go through it all, but you can take a look. I think we're anywhere from like a 7 to 10 win team. They think that they're incredibly deep. But I think the biggest question is one, whether the defense can go from being like very bad to like average, and whether like what kind of quarterback play that we get. If it's like abysmal, we're like 7 wins. If it's like really good, then I think things can get real interesting real fast. But there's some question marks. So yeah, I think 6th in the power ratings to like start the season is more than fair.
We talked about, Chris, if you slip.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say to Chris, like we talked about earlier, if UCLA slips past Utah, Larry, because for whatever reasons, that's at Utah. If you guys are healthy for that game, I got Utah as a heavy lean. But let's just say some pieces are still hurt. It's just not clicking yet. If UCLA gets that win, if they have one really big Challenge and Oregon State, and then USC at the end of the year. There's 3 games I think that can be lost, but I think that Utah game is kind of a question mark. And I told you, I kind of tipped my hand about the fact that I think it's almost a toss-up between the Beavs and the Bruins. That game's up at Corvallis at Reser. But, UCLA, I think they're going to win 10 games this year. They won 8, and then they won 9. I think they're going to win 10 this year.
They may. Sean and Larry, any other? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go
ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I actually do have a question. I'm in the state of Michigan, so I'm familiar with Dante Moore. I know he was I mean, you stole him from U of M, so I thank you for that greatly.
And Oregon and a few other people that probably thought they were going to get him. Yeah.
Right.
They didn't have the money.
And is
Sean,
do you think
MSU then?
do you think well, I mean, MSU never competes for those guys anyway, really. But do you think Garbers is potentially just holding the spot right now until Moore is ready to really take over the program full time?
Yeah, I think that Garbers by far knows the offense the best of any quarterback that we have, and he's been in the system the longest, and it's like good for continuity that he and has performed well. Like media availability is like pretty limited for UCLA in practice, but I think the people that cover the team think that Garbers has earned the starting spot. But like you said, I think, or like you hinted at, and the fact that Moore is going to play, I think that they, if Moore goes into the game and starts wowing and we have a situation, then maybe he steps up in game and takes over, or maybe he's the starter later in the year. I don't think by any means is this like settled, but people have kind of like take Caleb Williams for example, right? Like Caleb is had one of the amazing season last year and was an amazing prospect coming out of high school, right? He was behind Spencer Rattler, and then Garbers obviously doesn't have like the history that Rattler had or what people thought Rattler might be. But it's hard to be a true freshman starting quarterback. It happens more now than it used to because like high school coaching is so much better than it used to be, and the proliferation of 7-on-7 means these guys get like way more reps and experience at quarterback. People talk about how long DTR was at UCLA, but people forget like Chip started Spite to start that year, the Michigan transfer, and it was only because he got hurt that DTR ended up starting sort of out of necessity before he was ready. So I think you're pretty much spot on. I think Garbers has earned the role, but I think that they're in a situation where they don't want to throw Dante in anyway, or would prefer not to until he is ready. But I think that if he is ready and when he is ready, he will obviously play because he's supposed to be very, very good.
Well, they at USC, same thing happened with Sam Darnold. They put Max Brown in, almost like a sacrificial lamb to take that beating against Alabama. And I think they did it because they just didn't want. You can't throw. And this is granted, it's not the same thing, Coastal Carolina versus Alabama, but you do want to protect the freshman like that. You don't want to throw him right out there. He's going to get snaps though. I just don't think they want to put that kind of pressure. So you start Garbers and then you get as many reps for him as possible.
Does that 14 point line seem a little low?
Go ahead.
Does that 14 point line seem a little bit low against a Coastal team with a new staff?
That was my thought. I think if you're arguing that Coastal covers or wins, it's because Grayson McCall is able to throw the ball around on our secondary despite the new coaching staff and what I think a lot of people would think is a downgrade in coaching. But I think that the argument for UCLA, which I've kind of bought into more the last few days, is that we're just bigger than them, and that defense of Coastal is very small and was not very good last year. And I think UCLA can run at will against this Coastal team if But Chip has done weirder experiments in non-conference games before that you don't really know. But I do think that I think the number is a little low by a few points personally, but I just want to give like the devil's advocate argument of why it might not be, or what should concern you if you think this is like, oh, this is an easy bet. There are reasons to be on the other side of it.
Yeah, there always are. Vegas doesn't set those lines willy-nilly generally, but
They do not. Well,
No.
thank you, Sean, very much.
Yeah, you guys, great job. Anyone, like I said, hit the like and subscribe button. Any super stickers, super chats, or join the Patreon.
Oh, thank
you get tons of great benefits from it. It is well worth your $5, $10, or $20, whatever you choose to spend a month.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. You guys have a great night.
Thank you for that. And Sean is right. That thanks, Sean. That helps market the channel a lot. Helps build the community. So if you guys could just take a minute, like we know it sounds dorky, hit the like button. It makes all the difference in the world. And we'd love to.
And thank you guys for being members of the channel. It does make a big difference, and it really does help out marketing the channel to grow. So next up we have Jackson Johnson. Jackson, how you doing? And Will. Sorry, Will.
How's it going, guys?
We got a
You guys were down there. I missed you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wrap up. We'll bring in the crew. We got Jackson, Will, and Jeffrey. Guys, welcome.
What's up, everyone?
How's it going, gents?
Glad to be on.
What's up, guys?
What does everybody think about that Utah-Florida game? I mean, that looks like a close one.
I just don't think Florida's a good football team this year. I think Utah should win.
Utah, if Cam Rising was playing in this game, then it's a slam dunk win. Easy. Since he's not, I do have concerns about it because, we don't know how Bryson Barnes is going to play. Granted, he has played before in limited opportunities. I think that Bryce Eccles' home crowd is going to be a key factor. If Utah can get ahead over Florida early in the game, I think they've got it. But they can't let Florida hang around or they could lose. But I still am leaning Utah despite no Cam Rising. But I wish for their sake that they had him because it'd be a lot easier.
If they had Cam Rising, if I knew they had Cam Rising and Brent Keithy for the entire game, I think that they're going to win this game and cover easily. I think they win by double digits easily if they have both those guys the entire game. Unfortunately, we're not going to see that game.
There's a reason the line moved from like 10 to 4.
Was it 10? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, I got to put money on the Utes. I don't know. I just don't think Florida has much of an offensive line, and I don't think Graham Mertz is a great college quarterback.
Yeah, Mertz
is going to have to just not play like he did at Wisconsin and hope that the improved talent that Florida has versus Wisconsin, I use that loosely, will be able to help him out. But I don't think he's going to be able to go on the road in week one and play at a high level in that environment. That's the problem. It hurts for a lot of these teams. You talk about like a Florida State LSU game or North Carolina, South Carolina. It's beneficial that those are neutral site games and they're 50-50 crowds. Florida is going on the road to play Utah in that crowd. It could be 95% Utah fans, just like Florida did at home with Utah last year, having that home crowd help them squeak by. It's a lot different.
We put a lot in. Yeah, we put a lot into the fact that about Rice Eccles, his altitude, etc. We didn't talk about the MUS, which is their student section, which literally is one. Like I said, people think that all the great college football fans are stuck in the SEC and in the Midwest. You go to some of these Pac-12, and I'm not going to name UCLA or USC in this, but I am going to say that if you go to Rice Eccles, you go to Reitzer, if you go to Autzen, you're going to be in for one hell of a crowd. You better have your audibles and your silence all checked in because you're going to be in a lot of trouble with all the noise that they're going to make at those places.
I think Florida's used to it in the SEC, but I think it'll definitely help Utah for sure. It'll help them having their home crowd behind them because the Utes just play much better at Rice Eccles than they do away.
It's not even close. Yeah, I mean, they're invincible at home, and sometimes they get exposed on the road.
Well, to everybody's point about Utah's benefits at home at Rice Eccles, they have a 14-game consecutive winning streak, which is the 4th longest active winning streak for home games in all of college football.
Yeah, Jackson, to add to that point, you might have missed it earlier, but when we were talking about the game, I brought up since 2019, they're 21-1 at home, and so the Oregon fans don't get upset. So is Oregon.
The asterisk. Hold on, the asterisk there is that one game they lost it was during the COVID season, and there was no crowd.
That's a good point.
So with their crowd, with their fans, they are undefeated since 2019.
That's crazy. I got an interesting question for you, Tim, though, Tony as well. Basically, all you guys. I think it's interesting. You talk about you want to have easy games, right, in the non-conference. You want to have, play at home, beat your teams, all that kind of stuff. And I know that theoretically these aren't hard games, but I've noticed that the Pac-12 in week 1 has 3 games with actually 4. I take that back. I forgot one. 4 games with their teams going on the road to play group of 5. Why is this? You've got Cal on the road. You've got against North Texas. You've got Stanford on the road against Hawaii. You've got Washington State on the road. And you've got Oregon State on the road. Oregon State plays San Jose State. I forgot Washington State's right now. But you got all those are on the road. Why is that?
The schools you just named. Well, how do I say this? They don't. Bigger name programs can rent people to come in and also you have bigger home and aways where you actually go to. USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, they are not going to go to Fresno State or San Jose State or North Texas. They're not going to do that. Some of the other programs within the Pac-12 don't have the same situation, which requires them to take home and aways with some programs that most teams would not go to.
Like Alabama playing at UAB.
And actually,
you don't see.
Yeah, actually, let me interrupt, Jeffrey. Let me interrupt to take one out. Remember, if you go to Hawaii, you get a 13th game.
Right, with the exception of Hawaii. Good point, Tony.
Going to Hawaii. Yeah. What?
Good point with the Hawaii one. Yeah, absolutely.
And also remember that Stanford has a home game with Notre Dame this year. So the extra game, they're going to Hawaii, so it's not as big a thing. Oregon State has been traveling to some of the others. Remember though that like for them, like alumni wise and fundraising wise, like they're going to San Francisco or San Jose, but like that's a destination location, so that's kind of cool for them too.
Yeah, USC's played. The guys traveled to Hawaii on more than one occasion. That's a great point.
I just thought it was interesting because you don't see Alabama playing at UAB, you don't see Ohio State playing at Ball State, stuff like that. They play.
Cal should never be home. Cal should never be playing North Texas in North Texas.
That's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't make sense. They're playing a road game to a group of 5. They should never play. They should play that game at home. That's what I'm saying.
The only thing is we also don't know the scheduling details. Like if somebody canceled their game and then they had to refill it, and that was the only way. So
another great point.
Like, Jeffrey, I agree with you 100%.
Wait, is North Texas the Michigan replacement?
Oh man.
Are you thinking about UCLA? You're thinking about UCLA.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, Jeffrey, I think you are 1,000% right, but I don't want to scold him without knowing the circumstances. But you're absolutely right. There's no reason that Wazoo should be going to Colorado State. And no reason that, although, quite honestly, I don't know. In Colorado State, they have a beautiful new stadium. Maybe they wanted the game. Maybe they're even paying Wazoo to go. So I don't know. But in general, I think you're right, Jeffrey, that Cal should not be at North Texas.
I mean, I'm glad the games are happening because they're going to be interesting. They're really, sneaky games, especially if you like watching those lower games. Versus, some people just watch the big games and that's it. Someone mentioned in chat, Alabama's at South Florida, and granted, that makes my argument seem bad. I just said Alabama never plays on the road, so they are doing that this year, obviously, but it's just not often. It seems like the Pac-12 does it more. Like Tony said, Cal should not be going to North Texas. That's insane because Cal's not good right now, and they need wins. And it doesn't make sense. Like Indiana played at Western Kentucky and at Cincinnati the last couple of years. That don't make sense. Don't do that to yourself. You need those wins.
The Pac-12 also makes the mistake of playing like the good Mountain West teams instead of like the
Like
terrible ones. Right.
I just find it amazing that the Pooh Bears are playing at North Texas. That's just
weird.
Colorado TCU.
Is it some sort of deal with Sonny Dykes, like Zona Tucson is saying? Is it something to do with that?
It seems like a Young Guns invasion. I'm just putting it together right now. It's just we're missing Austin and we're missing Mike, but I think you guys planned this.
No, I just came on. I actually almost missed it. I clicked on the link like right before it disappeared. I just hopped over here. But,
so any other games you guys are interested in?
I'm intrigued on how the tree will look with their new coach to see like if they're like how different their team's gonna look. Like I don't think they're gonna be good, but maybe they'll get better.
Well, I'm kind of curious to see the big noon kickoff between TCU Colorado.
Colorado TCU, and that game. The only thing that makes that interesting is because of the fact of all the hype Dion has. If he didn't have the hype, it wouldn't even be a good game at all. Because like the game could be good, but it's not about that's the hype. Everybody's talking about Colorado, and I'm not confident in them right now. I think that they could be good, depending on how bad TCU is.
I just don't think their lines of scrimmages can compete with the rest of the Power 5 right now. Like they have some good skill players that could make a play. And, you know, TCU, I can't remember the guy's name, but their starting quarterback was supposed to be the starter. Like Max Duggan was supposed to be the backup last year, and this guy
Chandler Morris.
Thank you, Jackson. Chandler Morris. So I'm intrigued to see how he'll look.
And I think it really hurts for Colorado too that the Pac-12 this year is fantastic. Like the last year of it being like this before it's just destroyed and obliterated. You've got all these good teams. Oregon State, Oregon, Washington, you know, USC, UCLA, it goes on Utah, Washington State's decent. All these teams are really good. Colorado's not going to win any of those games. And if they do, it either means that they're just way better than I'm thinking or most people are thinking, or those teams aren't as good. And I don't see any of those teams being poor. So, I mean, Colorado's going to have a tough time this year, I think.
Yeah. Those teams at the bottom are going to struggle. I think you're going to see a lot of what we saw last year where you have which allows the teams at the top not to beat each other up too badly. But the bottom of the Pac-12 is going to be pretty bad. But, you know, that's in every conference, you know what I mean? And Colorado may or may not dig themselves out, but they've got a big hole for themselves. They got more than just a quarterback, receiver / cornerback. They got a lot of guys that were pretty decent players. But like you said, along the lines, the depth, everything, they're going to wear down. And that game's not going to be close.
I don't think so. And I hope it is. I mean, I hope they're all close. I mean, every game, Ohio State, Indiana in the fourth quarter, 1-score game. I mean, you know, every game you want to be close, but just realistically, doesn't
USC, San Jose State at halftime.
Oh man,
I doubt they'll be rotating like USC.
I wasn't buying Twitter when USC's going down. I was like, they're gonna win.
That was some of the funnest chat. Like I woke up the next day and went to look at that stream, and I was just reading the chat. No,
it's brutal.
It brought a lot of fun drama to talk about in week 0, but I still have a feeling that in week 3, 4, we won't be talking about the same defense.
No, I think it's going to get better.
We'll see.
We'll see. Against Nevada, they'll do better.
No, Tim, the point that I made while you were out when we were talking about SC was how different the splits were when Gentry was actually in the game.
Yeah, there was a great tweet that went out by Shotgun Spratling, and he talked about the 6 drives, full drives that Eric Gentry was in. In those 6 drives, he was there for the that at the end of the half, that weird thing where Caleb that long sack and they punted out their own end zone. They got great. The Spartans got great field position, made a couple plays, and then that long throw of the end zone on that busted coverage that made it 21-14. But other than that drive, the other drives he was in, the 4 of them they went 3 and out, and then the fourth one, sorry, it was 5 drives. And then the other drive he was in, they got a first down, but they only got 10 yards on the drive. So if you look at it, he really, his presence there made a huge difference. They started the young guy, Tackett Curtis, but I don't think he'll be the starter. He's going to be great. They're going to move him along, get him lots of important reps. But at some point, he's going to be that guy. But right now, it's going to be Eric Gentry. He was absolutely a difference maker in that game.
I mean, by the way, guys, I know you guys are asking me questions. I can't respond. I'm using the app, so I can't respond right now. But when I get off, like, feel free to ask me questions. But I just don't understand why Grinch like blitz on like a 3rd and 20. Like, I just don't understand some of his play calls.
Because this game was being treated like this game was being treated like a scrimmage. They got two straight plays where they had negative yards, right? And then on that last one, you're right. They're not going to call it against Washington, UCLA, Oregon, Utah. They're not going to be that aggressive in their play calling. They did that because they wanted to see if they could knock them out of field goal range. I don't think whatever you saw there. One, it was vanilla. Two, they were playing guys that are not going to get significant snaps. There were 25 guys on defense, 35 guys played on offense. That's not going to happen. They kept the left tackle in to keep everyone to make sure you could protect the blind side. They kept Dedich in at center because obviously he's your play caller, right? But other than that, they were rotating the right tackle and both guards, like platooning every series. I know you guys don't follow teams, so you didn't see that. I know that the narrative wanted to be, oh my God, they suck. But in reality, USC was playing so many dudes in that game, you can't take much from it.
Well, also because they're playing it like a scrimmage, if you give up a first down there on 3rd and 22, you just get more reps.
I was looking for my dun-dun-duns. I missed it. Yeah. Not too much to take from that. Tony's going to get mad in a minute. I think he went to sleep. Do you guys have any more to add?
I mean,
any more games?
We haven't touched on. Boise State, Washington is a game.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be
Boise.
I tried, Tony. Okay, go ahead.
If this was Boise from 15 years ago, man, this would be a great game. Boise's not what they were, but maybe they'll be good. But in their heyday, man, that would be a classic.
What's that country song? Just once I'll be as good as I once was. Can Boise pull that off in Seattle?
I'm hoping that they can get LeGarrette Blount, as maybe like a grad transfer, like moving over there, so that we can get like that Blount moment at the end of the game. I know that was Oregon, but maybe Washington can borrow him for a game. That'd be a little excitement.
That was a moment.
No, it's horrible. It is horrible. I shouldn't even joke around about it. But that would be the most interesting thing, I think, from this game.
We are getting close to our 2-hour point here.
Definitely.
I just want to see how DJ looks.
We are getting close to our 2-hour point, guys. Any you see how DJ looks? It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm looking forward to week 1. Just these games are going to be awesome, all in Pac-12 and the other conferences included.
Hey, I'm on the fucking show, so please, whatever you got to do it on your own, and please don't cuss. Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
That's all right, man.
Okay,
sorry,
Tim,
but
you forgot to mute.
No, I That's okay. Go ahead.
Well, last week was the appetizer. Week 0 was an appetizer. Now week 1. That's going to be the full course meal for sure.
But for Pac games, I can't wait to see Wazoo host Wisconsin in the Palouse. That's going to be a really fun game.
Yes.
Oh man, I'll be flipping between that game and Oregon Texas Tech and Bama Texas. That's
I love to flip through games all the time. I mean, literally, if you're especially if the bigger games are not close, I'm going to CBS Sports Network and FS1 and watching Mountain West and Conference USA. I love watching smaller games. I mean, that classic Houston UTSA game from last year was insane. Clayton Tune flipping in the end zone, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's football right there. No one sees this. And
it's an interesting game. That's an interesting game this year too. I think UTSA is favored in that game if I remember correctly.
Not having Bakari Franklin is horrible for them, though. I mean, he transferred to Ole Miss. He was Frank Harris's biggest target. I mean, granted, Houston doesn't have Clayton Tune or Tank Dell anymore, but it's at Houston. I don't know. If Bakari Franklin was there, I definitely think UTSA would win, but it's going to be close. It's going to be a good game again.
Also, another reason to join the Patreon, in the 3:30 block, Mark's going to be doing a watch-along show just for the patrons. Yeah. So another reason to become a YouTube member or Join the Patreon for the Voice of College Football. Going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there. We can watch the games. Hopefully, there'll be some close games that we can talk about. So
hopefully, Indiana's competitive in the second half.
Oh man, it's gonna be a party. It's gonna be a party on Saturday.
You guys should all join that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, we are hitting our time here.
Is there after dark show for Sunday as well?
Probably.
Ask Explorer about Instagram, but I'm probably...
Well, like on usual Sundays, if you become a Patreon member or YouTube member, you get to take part as an After Dark member. So you get to cover some of the games with some of the Patreon YouTube members.
Mm-hmm.
You guys should do that. All right, guys, we are at our time. Will, Jackson, Jeffrey, any final thoughts here?
Like I said, I just cannot wait for week one. It's going to be awesome. Starting today on the East Coast, already out Thursday.
We'll be very interesting to see how. Will be very interesting to see how the USC defense improves once they start rotating. Will be very interesting.
It's gonna be fun.
It will. Hey, thank you guys for calling in. It was good to have you guys.
Thanks for having me on. It was a blast.
Oh, thank you for having me on. Thank you for having all of us on.
Anytime. Fight on. We'll see you guys soon. It'll be a fun weekend. All right. Well, that, guys, was fun here as we get ready to wrap up. Chris, any big final thoughts for the night?
Nope. I'm glad it's finally here and that football is here for everyone. And I'm looking forward to watching games this weekend. Go Bruins.
Jim?
Again, this would be great to have the first full week of football. No more tune-ups. Not really exciting games. I'm really excited for that Utah-Florida game. It'll probably be something really special. I hope, like I said, for all the right reasons, that they represent so we don't have another narrative like last year.
I hear you on that. And guys, for a lot of fans here, this is going to be a wild season because it's going to be a lot of great games. It's going to be fun games. And it's going to be the last year of the Pac-12 as any way that, we remember it, going back, through the history of the Pac-12 and back in the history of the PCC. So enjoy it. Watch extra games. Stay up extra, watch a game on your computer where you got one on the TV. Just take whatever you can to enjoy it, guys, because it's going to be a wild and fun season. And we really appreciate having you guys here with us to share it. We appreciate all you guys in the chat. We appreciate everybody who leaves comments. We appreciate everybody who called in. It's a fun ride, and we're honored that you are coming along with us. So everybody, have a great night. Fight on, and we'll see you live here on the channel after the USC game. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.